Recording in progress.
I'll show you how to do the, where you mute.
I'd like to welcome
so
everyone
people can
tonight.
just make comments.
This is a work meeting of the Grantsville City Council. The record today's date is November 17th, 2025, and the time is 6 p.m. This meeting is being held in the Grantsville City offices located at 429 East Main Street, Grantsville, Utah, and on Zoom. Mayor Neil Crixwell. 4 council members are present. When Councilwoman Jenkins arrives, we will announce her arrival. Okay? Our first order of business is presentation and discussion of the crossing at Willow Creek Concept Commercial Development. Saddle up.
I'm here.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Robert Green.
So not the ending part.
My address is 752 North 475 East in Springville, Utah. I represent myself and my family and some partners and landowners of approximately 150 acres next to the racetrack, titled under Fool's Gold, Raceway Real Estate, and Brass Band. I think we're here tonight to discuss the...
We're going to ask that Councilwoman Jenkins has arrived and welcome her to our work meeting. Back to you.
So we're here tonight to review conceptually on the crossing at Willow Creek. And just wanted to discuss the project and get some ideas and feedback. We are at concept stage. So things like parking and different things that we need to discuss are open-minded. We really want to make a complimentary community for the city members, and for the Romney Group. We're grateful for the Romney Group for being here, and it's helped us get to this stage. We've owned this property for 10 to 20 years, and now we're ready to move forward on a good plan. So any feedback, I know we're talking about the inland port zone tonight. That is essential for us if we can talk about somehow getting us into that port zoning for the funds. Stephanie's done a great job with us, and we're looking for her expertise in the inland port area and getting these PID loans approved. But we're open-minded to any changes that you guys need, and the Romneys would like to see as well.
Explain the 1.5, 6.3 acres onto the...
So we've had storage in it. Buyers contact us about that property, and we just opened it for discussion, and we don't know what's going to go there. Last time we were at the city, we talked about a gas station, we talked about a hotel, and we added that to the concept. We have kind of businesses from the gas station side of things that are interested in that corner. A lot of retail. We've had office call us. Primarily, we're looking for industrial. The Romney Group, I know Josh fairly well, and they deal with the bigger product, and we're looking for the small flex office space. And then we added the component of apartments, condos, and townhomes. That's kind of what we do as well in Salt Lake. I didn't know we can talk about residential here, but that was brought up a couple weeks ago, and so we changed the plat for that. But again, we're open to discussion. I think that the apartments and townhomes and condos would be complementary to the jobs that we're going to be bringing in, but that can change as well. So really just a broad stroke plat just to start the dialogue.
Any questions?
Well, maybe just for our purposes, I mean, we can see that you got Flex 1 type, and type 2, and office, and retail.
Yep.
But explain to me, or explain to us kind of your intention in the more residential type area. I'm assuming it's residential on the top left-hand side. So let's talk about a little bit about that.
So currently right now we have project in Vineyard, 434 townhomes.
Okay.
It's low income. As fast as we build, we fill, and it's a complementary product that helps, and we believe that's going to support that flex and that office and that retail. That can be either brought up to homes, that can be brought down, we can leave it to flex. I mean, we don't have to have a residential component, but it was discussed a couple weeks ago, and so we went back to Blue Design and we added it. And again, I just like the blend. The question's always been how close we are to proximity to the racetrack, but they don't run a lot of races anymore. And so, if the racetrack's gonna continue, we can be flexible on the residential. The racetracks would. I just don't understand what the long-term racetrack, what's gonna happen there. So every time I talk to the general manager, they don't run races there anymore. It costs them $1 million every time they run a race. I'm going, well, if you're gonna run a race, run the race. If you're not, get rid of the property. There's so much better use for that racetrack, in my opinion, than a sitting piece of dirt. But again, that's just an opinion. So that's what we added. That can be changed if we want to go a different direction on the residential. And I think everybody knows that blend helps the project get out of the ground. And residential just, it's proponent. It just expedites the project. But we will play and we'll change what we need to change. Our main thing was to be complementary towards the Romney Group. They bring a lot of different building types, and they pass a lot of building types up because they're too big. And we'd be able to come in and support that smaller flex space.
So in that space right there, you've got a different shade of yellow along the outside. What's the intention for that?
Open-minded, just more townhomes.
Okay.
Again, that was just put residential, low-income housing, fill it, and see what everybody says.
Gotcha.
And if they start choking on it, then we'll go up or down, and we'll move and shake, and we can move that flex type over into more of that space and give them a little bit less. I think there's about 163 units there of townhomes, and I think on the orange, you've got about 130 apartment. But again, that's just a broad stroke. That was filling space.
So your orange is more apartment complex?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then the lighter color yellow is more townhomes?
Mm-hmm.
And then what about the lighter color red? I guess coral type color, right?
That's apartments. So your coral is apartments, your towns are above, and then you've got towns in a different shade. Blue Design just made a different shade. That's our towns in the back.
Okay.
But again, wide open discussions. So,
Can I see a slide of this in a more of a bigger perspective? Is this the only slide that there is?
I think there's different view angles, but it's basically the same thing.
I guess I want to see,
Are you wanting the GIS?
yeah, I want to see more property around it.
You got the Twila County GIS. Hold
I
on.
can pull it up on the map too during my presentation.
Sorry.
I think it's good to see the Romney property, because
Yeah, the Romney property's next to it. I mean, that's the.
Right, I want to see that in comparison to how far away their residential space is from here.
So
Give me 2 seconds.
who owns the land directly to the north of your
Sorry.
housing unit there?
Romney's. They surround us on the back. They've got a track that goes on the backside. They come around. I've got a picture of it too. In fact, I've got it with me. Hold on. I don't have enough for everybody. See how.
You're fine.
There we go.
That's not funny.
That's
I know
Romney's.
you were taking notes.
You're good.
Thank you.
So they surround us. And then we hit the other side, which is the track.
This is Romney's, and this is our industrial.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at one point, the track was talking about along that west side, building like condos that were for high-end guys with garages underneath and apartments up above.
And a hotel.
So they could go, well, this part of it on the west, could go take their Ferraris or whatever out and race around the track and then park them, and then they could leave us.
The same idea, if you go back to my plat, the same idea with that open ground, that's what the storage unit guy wanted to do. He wanted to build places for cars with a top layer that they can come and sit.
Living space above.
Yes. Which again makes no sense if you're not going to try the races.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And where did you say that was being?
If you can pull up the last picture,
Go back to the PDF.
so go back to that
Okay.
PDF. So the 1.5, 6.3, and 5.4 were adjacent to that track, and that was some of the ideas with that storage unit owners. If I built some storage units there with facilities to hold toys and have a garage, and I could put space above it where they can come and live, or they can come and view the racetrack, and that was this whole idea of having these viewing platforms, and I just don't see that happening.
But you do own those parcels right there?
It's
Okay.
all our ground. It's within the partnerships. And again, that's a light, so UDOT, we've worked with UDOT, and that's where our light's going, and we've got a right in, right out. The gas station is just a marked gas station, so we don't know if that gas station's gonna want that corner, or they're gonna want the corner where the retail is. It really is just conceptual at this point. And same with the hotel. We're going to market and start getting the word out, this is what we're doing, the crossing's coming, and then we're gonna get the word out and see who wants to come.
Well, the peak is kind of an untapped resource that's just over there a little bit more that I think, you know, right now Tooele City has, what, 2 hotels? Is that how many they've got?
3 or 4?
1, 2.
But they said that
Newer hotels.
it is constantly booked.
Yes.
And so I think, you know, the peak is under Tooele County's jurisdiction, but I think if we can get that resource going,
Right.
that's gonna flourish on that commercial, you know, to have some hotel space. I mean, right now, you know, my boys are doing wrestling, and state wrestling is in Nephi. And we're like, if we had, because right now the peak has the facilities, but they don't have the hotel.
Right.
Like, that's what's keeping big things like that from coming, like baseball tournaments and football and wrestling and that kind of thing. So I think if we could prepare for that, and I do like the idea of having a hotel or something like that in that area, I think is perfect, because if we build it, they will come, right?
Well, it's already built.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean-
the activities are, so
The
really
peak.
it's just to support it, right?
yeah, like if we support it, more will come. How's that? Is that a better quote?
Well, what's interesting is I participated in I sold the ground for Adobe. So in
Okay.
Lehigh, I listed the property, I sold the property to Adobe, and I worked with the economic developer in Lehigh for a long time. And I watched Lehigh City grow from nothing to Silicon Slopes. I ended up selling all the property to Entrada on that bench that became Silicon Slopes, and I watched them grow, and this is basically what they did. They made this, they marketed this, and it came. So I marketed Adobe 2.5 years before I sold to Adobe. So having that experience and working with that city, I really do like what we've done here. I think if you build it, they will come, and if you market it, you will know, and that's what our job's gonna be. We're gonna go out and market this. I'm 20 years of real estate experience. I've got, all my partners are in real estate, either in project management and big development companies or builders, and we all like what we see. So I think it is a good plat, but again, we're totally moldable what the city wants to see as well.
You mentioned UDOT, so that's always a concern of ours.
Yeah.
So you're well aware of the distances that they're gonna require for future widening of that road. So-
We spent a year with Shelby, and it was painstaking with Nazi. She's with UDOT, she's a good lady.
I was gonna say, you're talking about our Shelby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was painstaking.
It was,
No,
man.
not with me, you're not.
I'm just joking.
Nazi, and she's a good lady,
Yeah.
but she's got a lot on her plate. But again, we wanted 2 lights there. We didn't have the distance for 2 lights, and we're just grateful to have that main light and that right in, right out. That makes this project work.
And that aligns with the future extension of Green
Yeah.
for
Oh,
Grantsville
yeah.
City. So we've made sure we work closely with Robert and UDOT to get that alignment.
Okay, so with that, Shelby, you're talking, that's where Green will cross, right there?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, the roads are just a depiction.
Right.
We've got wet stuff that we have to deal with, frontage stuff that we're talking about, and the biggest issue tonight is that inland port zoning. We really need that to make that come together for our line. We're not,
Right now, it's currently zoned, what?
8.
What?
8.
and we don't need a zone changes, I understand, we just need an amendment.
No, you would need a zone change to do a PUD overlay district,
Okay.
as well as amend the inland port area so that you could include this if council wished.
Just a couple concerns I have with the housing as I'm looking at this bigger overview. Those housing areas would be surrounded essentially by large industrial space.
Yes.
and also train tracks on
Both sides.
all sides. And today, there aren't races, but tomorrow,
Could be,
there could be a lot of races.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, we have no idea how that's all gonna play out.
100%.
So I think your idea of the place for toys with living space above, I can see that being a very good use of housing space in this particular area with the amenities that are around it. I'm not sure, I'm not sure that I love the housing there. It just seems like it's going to be a constant battle of people feeling like they are living
In the middle of industrial zone.
in the middle of an industrial zone, and it seems like it could kind of become, I don't know, I'm not sure the right political word to use right here.
I understand what you're
If
saying.
they don't want to live there.
Well,
Well, but why
I
would
get
you build
that,
something
but-
no one wants to live in
Yes.
either,
I
so.
don't think Mr. Green would actually do that.
Well, and I'm not saying that either.
It's okay. But we do have right now in Vineyard, we have live work units that we're in the process of building, and that's with the same concept. We have living space on top, and then they open up businesses below. And so it's the same type of product. I like the affordability part of that.
right, I do too, I understand the need for that.
Yeah. But it's just gonna be a balance, and maybe we tone the unit numbers down. Again, I'm not in disagreement with you. We are around an interesting area with the Romney Group. So
Right.
we're just trying to play in that sandbox as nice as we can.
Can somebody tell me who owns the property on the other side of SR 138? I mean, obviously, the Romneys have that little corner.
Yeah.
County owns a chunk of it over
The county owns the other,
Well,
I'm talking
State trust lands.
there.
right
This
here.
is sit on that.
Okay,
That's not cattle conservation group?
Further to the
Further to the south.
South.
and west.
Because we did a trade with some of that land with the cattle group.
okay.
So they're good people. So yeah, I mean, getting back to that residential, just more direction.
Yeah, I just, it just seems to me, and to the mayor's point, I understand, if it's at a price point where people who are working in these industrial areas can't afford, they're going to take that because it's what they can afford.
Yes.
However, you don't want to create a housing area that doesn't make good sense either, so.
Yeah, I would say that maybe not housing, is like single family homes right there. You probably would, that one probably would do well, but higher density, maybe higher apartments, higher density, and that, maybe that's where you put the high density here in Grantsville. So that way, when people know that they want to have that, they have that ability here in Grantsville, and so you have that higher density in these areas where the industrial area is there. And so people will know that that's what they get when they move there, type thing, and have access to the freeway, Mid-Valley Highway, different things like that. So you kind of coordinate those areas for your higher density here, so you can preserve your other areas.
So let's just talk density numbers then. In that area where you have the townhomes and the apartments. So how big is that designated area, number one? And how many units are you talking in that area? Just give us an idea.
I want to say it's about 30 acres,
Okay.
because Rasband owns 19 of that. I think they're about 10 acres in ours. So I want to say it's about 30 acres of property, and then take out the retail in the front. And I believe there's about 300 total units in there.
Okay.
But again, guys, that's really spitballing. Like, we threw that blue design together. I don't have head counts because I wanted to come and talk before we made any moves.
You know, when we were talking about the Romneys housing, we talked about they needed some apartments on their property as well. So, I don't know, maybe this is a place to put them, I'm not sure.
And we build a good product. We can show you what we've done and what we can do. And
Down in Vineyard,
we're down in Vineyard. But again, make no mistake, we need help, right? We're not big-time Charlies. So we're gonna go out and get JVs, and we're gonna get partners, and we're gonna look for people to help us with this project as well. So signs went up yesterday, and now that we've got things on the path, we've turned down a lot of bigger names, but we're at the point now where if we can get into the Inland Port zone, we're ready to get going on the project.
Can we talk about SR 112 for just a second? Obviously, that is a very, very busy road.
Yes.
And UDOT doesn't have the funding to widen that road in the near foreseeable future.
Right.
And we all obviously have a lot of concerns as being residents of Grantsville. The Romneys are proposing that their project will bring in 10,000 employees at full build out. This is obviously several more thousands people to put on the road. So
I think that was one of the discussion points with UDOT. They're very nervous about 112.
they should be.
Yeah. And that's why they came and asked us if we were willing to put that road through, and we had no issue with that. I think the issue was, are we gonna go all the way through Romney's? I think that's gonna be the discussion point. We're open-minded to it. As soon as Shelby said we need a road, we were fine with the road. So I think the issues with our project is with making sure that's gonna go through the tracks and into Romney's project.
And this is nothing, it's just an initial thought on the 33rd Parkway that's listed there being just to the north of this, of the Romney's area. Is it possible to find a way for this area to access that 33rd Parkway, or not really? That'd have to be something that went with the, that'd have to be their deal.
That's Romney's issues, and we're here to play ball with them. Well, you know, it is what it is. Kind of a funny story, we called Josh, or I called Josh about 7 years ago. We've owned this property for 20 years, and I called Josh and I said, hey, you guys bought all this property around us. What should I do with this property? Should we hold it, sell it? He said, Rob, don't you ever sell that property. So don't listen to anybody, any offers. You hold that property forever, don't ever sell it. And about 3 years later, I got a phone call, and I saw it was Josh Romney on my phone. I have caller ID. He says, hey, is this Raceway Real Estate? I said, it is. He says, I'm calling to buy your ground. I said, what ground are you talking about? He said, that property in Grantsville. I said, our property in Grantsville is not for sale. Oh, no, everybody's got a number. I said, no, sir, we will never sell that property. He says, you're not going to sell that property? I said, no, why not? Because you call it, I talked to you 3 years ago.
Sell it.
And that's what. So we are a little island around the Romneys, but yeah, we'll do whatever you guys need us to do with the roads. Again, I think more, you've got to get people off of 112. You've got.
That's why I was asking about connecting it to 33rd
Yes.
Parkway, because anything to keep traffic off of 112
Yeah,
is going to be helpful.
and that's kind of why we didn't really fight the two light thing. I just think you've got to relieve pressure as much as you can off that 112. And designing that 112 is going to be key for you guys.
And you'll finish your half of the road on 112 over to your property.
Let's talk a little bit about Nigreen. So you mentioned that Nigreen lines up with that
Light.
light.
Now, Shelby, do you happen to have any type of visual of that you could
I
access?
have it on a computer, but just.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you got the drive? Go ahead.
And then you have another road that will line up with Sheep's Lane. What road is that? That's the
the
Depot Road, yeah.
You have two arterial roads though. So you'll have this road that'll go Depot Road all the way above.
Oh, sorry.
Does it, I'm just curious, I'll just throw this out here, just a thought I had while we're waiting. Does it make sense to have maybe the flex space as a buffer around the residential space, or does it make more sense to tuck the residential, just throwing out ideas?
No, I
Does it
agree.
make more sense to have the residential
maybe
tucked
closer
up
to
in
the
that?
hotel and gas station area, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, just maybe,
Oh,
I'm
not
just
going to.
throwing that out there.
The challenge when you do that light is so essential with semi-trucks. So if we had two lights, it'd be easy. But with one light, I want those semi-trucks to use that light as much as we can to get into the back of that space. That's the only thing with those
You're not
signs.
gonna give me what I wanted.
But again, open-minded to it. I just thought right in, right out is my secondary access. Those semi-trucks are gonna need that light. And that's kind of why we put it on the other side, just keep that flex basically.
So it'll actually extend further, so this is, was sheep, no, not sheep lane, what was that one called that goes through the, it's gonna extend further. So my green will curve up and then it'll actually extend down roughly right here. That meets up with Robert's development.
Well, then again, talking about going on the other side, now you're putting houses against your racetrack. And you've got sound issues and
Go to
so,
developments.
All over there that we want there.
Scroll down to SR 112.
I wish they'd just sell that property. Tried to buy the property.
Oh, it's not giving you what we need, that sucks.
And it's not for sale either?
The one time we
When I
had it
have
better
this,
than
it's
black.
all
If we had had it a few years ago, they were sold.
Right here shows everything on there right there with the road alignment.
So again, I think
No, they
that's,
won't.
you guys need to just talk about it and just get a feel. It sounds like we've got a question mark on that housing is
I mean,
is where we're at.
haven't tracked all the developments, I just don't know.
I think conceptually, have you thought about like a garden, like a podium style,
Yeah.
that, because you could combine some retail in, some
Yeah.
right in that situation, and
I like the idea too.
might fit in that situation.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that, Rich?
Just a first level retail podium, and then you have apartments or
Okay,
townhomes
like
above.
the studio homes or
Yeah.
something like that, or on top?
Like little flats over the top.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be time. So that area with our studies, bringing that much retail, especially when you put it in the back, like it's all good in the front. We're gonna be able to fill this stuff. When we start throwing it in the back, that's when you start having some issues. And all of a sudden you got vacancies sitting around. We just want them full.
Okay.
Again, maybe you get rid of the apartments, maybe you just do a nice townhome project in the corner. And then run that office space and that retail around that whole line. I just think that balance is not a bad balance. I think it's a good balance to have people with low affordable housing and bring it in. And that complements the project in itself, but we don't want overkill either. We got a lot of rooftops coming in, you need more commercial and retail. But we gotta balance that with what's coming in and the time to get these people in.
So do you feel like the townhomes go better than the apartments?
I'm just a townhome guy. That's what we like to build, that's what we fill in. I mean, as fast as we build those in Vineyard, they go. So it's just a balance between that income level. It's just different. And so you're not buying Tony Wells' property down the street, you're not in the single-family homes, but you still get a nice townhome, and now you can walk to work. I think it's a complementary product. But I do think that we have to be careful not to put too much in, and then be careful with the railroad tracks and the feel of living in an industrial zone. I don't want that feel. So if that means buffering that area and podium, some of that, we can do that.
Here, you pull the mics to you just a little bit.
Sorry. I'm used to talking at the speakers.
We can hear you fine.
That's my church.
Okay.
You can pull it. You can, yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Any more questions?
Questions?
We need to move on to the part of this meeting, so
We go back to his PDF.
think about it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Right. Item number 2, presentation and discussion of the proposed amendment to the inland port.
Right. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Council. Actually, I'll use this one. I'm going to pull up a presentation here. I just wanted to give you a really brief overview of the inland port. I know that we have we haven't talked in a while. We come once a year. We are actually coming up to our anniversary of the creation of the project area. We created the project area here in Grantsville in 2003, in December. And so I'm excited to kind of give you an update on where things are at, but also just wanted to overview the tool, especially as it relates to some of the projects you have top of mind, and answer any questions that you have. And so my name is Stephanie Pack. I am the Associate Vice President of Regional Project Area Development with the Utah Transit Authority, and I manage our project areas here in northern Utah, including the 20 Wells project area here in Grantsville. We have about 14 project areas across the state of Utah, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why we create these project areas. Really, these come at the request of the communities in which we are located. We create these projects on the behest of the legislative body, and they invite us in to create these project areas. We have a mission to optimize logistics here in the state of Utah, and we're doing that through economic development. So we work with communities that have very specific economic development goals. And as those communities grow, we help optimize the logistics on the back end. I think a great example, one that I'll point to, is the Savage Tooler Railroad. The Savage Tooler Railroad was a decommissioned rail line here in the community that the industry here in the community, the Romney Group in particular, saw some potential for and saw some usage of. And so we helped partner with Savage as well as the Romney Group to help get that rail line here. And so as the need for these assets come through economic development, through the creation of businesses coming into the community, jobs being created, we are optimizing the logistics network across the state. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about that in the presentation. The tools that we don't have when we create a project area is we don't have land use authority, we don't have permitting authority, zoning, or the ability to move tax differential outside of a project area. And so we certainly don't come in with a lot of say in how your community gets built. You tell us what you want to see built here, we'll follow your plan, and we'll follow your ordinances and zoning to get the right types of growth that make sense for your community. Really all we are is a financing tool, and I'll talk about some of those financing tools that we have. So a project area is created when a community resolves to create a project area to invite us in. We draft a plan for the project area. A plan for the 20 Wells project area is available on our website. Encourage the city council to read up on that plan so you understand what's there. And then our board adopts that project area, and we start working on optimizing that project area. This is a long-term relationship with the community, as these project areas have a 25-year lifespan. And so we really, really do see these as a long-term project and want to work with the community through that process. In order to create a project area, there needs to be a public good. This is in our statute, in our state statute. There needs to be a public good. There needs to be a public benefit to the creation of this project area. There needs to be economic feasibility and statutory alignment with our statute and with the community plan and what the community wants to see. And so as we look at growing the project area, expanding more property into the project area, we want to make sure that we're hitting each of these statutory components. Just a little bit on our public financing tools, and this is really the meat of what a project area is we use tax increment financing to help create opportunities and help finance infrastructure in these areas. And so as you can see, when a project area is created, we freeze the existing tax base for that year. And so the taxes that you're currently receiving on these properties will continue to flow to the community. And then we split the new tax growth 75-25. So 25%.
Are you talking property tax?
property taxes.
Okay, thank you.
This also includes sales tax, and I think this is important, and we'll discuss this as well in our statute. So 25% continues to flow to the taxing entities, 75% gets captured in the project area, and we can use that 75% over 25 years for things like infrastructure upgrades. We can also use it as post-performance tax rebates to qualifying businesses. There's a lot of ways we can deploy these funds, but a big benefit of it is having funds available for regional infrastructure that's going to benefit the project. But for these financing tools, the project wouldn't happen, or the infrastructure that a developer can afford isn't going to be sufficient to help support maybe more growth down the line. And so as you look at the infrastructure needs that are required for this area, these tools can really help the city be proactive about their growth rather than reactive. You can utilize this tool to bond for infrastructure. You can use that through the PID, the Public Infrastructure District. That's a great tool. And we can commit this new tax differential to pay back some of those bonds. So this allows the community to participate in the development process for projects that make sense for the community. One thing I do want to mention is that we do capture sales tax in our project areas. Traditionally, we have deployed these tools for industrial projects only. There are exceptions, and in project areas across the state, we have seen some retail in our project areas, not a ton, but some. And we have seen some residential in our project areas. But that's important for the community to know that we capture all of those property tax revenues as well as those sales tax revenues, and they get captured in the 75%. We deploy those revenues into the community. They don't leave the community, but it is deferring those revenues to the end of the project, the lifespan of the project, to that 25 years. One thing we have done in other project areas is we have created an interlocal agreement where we capture the property tax revenue, but then pass through the sales tax revenue to the city. So you defer the property tax revenues for that 25 years, but then you can retain the sales tax revenues. So that's something we can structure with a mixed use development like this, but wanted to make sure that the city council was aware that that is a component of this. Also, when it comes to residential, as you know, residential doesn't generate as much revenue as it costs to bring services to those residential units. It's a little different. The math is a little different with high density residential, but something to keep in mind as you look at this mixed use development. So I'll pause there for just a second and see if there's any questions.
Mr. Green, how much property taxes a year did you pay on this parcel?
Been in Greenbelt the whole time.
So $200, $300?
Yeah, thousands.
Okay.
We've had it for about 20 years.
Okay, but per year it's about
1,000, whatever Greenbelt is. It's not a lot of money.
And so that differential, once that gets built out and once it starts generating all of that revenue, that's even that 25% will be a significant amount of revenue coming into the community. And then obviously, once all of that debt service is paid, one thing that is nice about these project areas is once the debt service is paid, we can terminate the project area early. So that is on available to the community as well. So,
Will you explain that just a little more, please?
Yeah, so let's say that we wanted to use the tax differential to bond for infrastructure. So we need money today to build the infrastructure so the development can actually happen. So we bond for that infrastructure and we start using the tax differential to pay back those bonds. Once those bonds are paid, once all the debt service is completed for that project area, the city can choose to dissolve the project area. And so we'll need to keep it open as long as there's debt service, right? As long as there's debt that we need to pay with those funds. But once that debt service is paid, then we can terminate the project area and all of that tax revenue goes back to the taxing entities. So that's something to keep in mind, assuming that everything goes amazing and, it's performing way better than we anticipated. There's an opportunity for the city to get all the value that they needed from the development and then close that project area and then get all of that tax revenue a little bit early. It just depends on how the debt is structured and depends on how much debt you actually need. And so, right now, with this project being an example, we don't have a sure understanding of what infrastructure is necessary to get this project moving. But we can deploy this to widen roads, to build water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure. We can even use this tool to pay for natural gas and power infrastructure as well. This is just a way to show how these revenues can function in your community. So I don't know if you can see, there's a little blue section at the bottom of these bars. So that's the base property taxes over the life of the project. And with the areas that we're looking at, they're largely in Greenbelt. And so as the mayor mentioned, your current revenue streams from these Greenbelt zones are really nominal. They're not significant. Once we build on them, obviously the value of that property increases significantly. And so that dark green bar is the value coming into the city year over year. That's that 25% split. And then that lighter green area is that 75% that we can deploy for infrastructure. And so you can see that, even with that 75-25% split, it can mean good, significant revenues coming into the city. And then obviously once the project area is dissolved, all of that will go to the taxing entities. A couple of other tools that we have the Public Infrastructure District. This is a tool that Grantsville City has as well. The Inland Port can also sponsor a Public Infrastructure District. And essentially what those are is it protects the city from liability on debt, and it protects us at the Inland Port from liability on debt, as well as the developer for liability on debt. This is a semi-public entity, the Public Infrastructure District, and basically their role is to issue bonds and build infrastructure and then turn that infrastructure over to the entities that are going to own it and maintain it. So for a water line, for example, that they will build that water line and then turn that over to the city to own and maintain in perpetuity. So it's a really wonderful tool in that it protects the city from having to issue and have the burden of that debt on them. As well as it protects the Inland Port from having that burden of debt. And so that Public Infrastructure District is there until the bonds are paid. And then that Public Infrastructure District is dissolved once it's served its purpose. So that's a really great tool that we have access to that could benefit when we're looking at large infrastructure projects that need to be built. And then we have our Authority Infrastructure Bank. We have a good example of this and how we deployed it here in Grantsville. I mentioned the Savage Toola Railroad. They actually applied for this Authority Infrastructure Bank loan. And it utilizes the state's AAA bond rating and really allows for low interest rates on this loan. So we were able to deploy $12 million towards the construction of that new rail line. And Savage will be paying that loan back to the state. And as they pay that loan back, that's more funds that we can then deploy for other large-scale infrastructure projects. So just wanted to mention these are a couple of tools that we have in our tool set. Wanted to give you a little bit of an update on what we've done in Grantsville specifically, and then I'll pause for questions. As I mentioned, we are coming up on our 2-year anniversary working with the city. We initially put in 498 acres on the west side of the Lakeview Business Park development, and I'll show you a map of that. And then last year, we amended in an additional 144 acres on the west side of the city, where Broken Arrow is looking to develop and expand, right along the rail line that they take advantage of, and I can show you a map of that as well. One thing that we were really excited about is the ribbon cutting ceremony of the Savage Tooele Railroad. That's going to come right into Grantsville and service this area. The Union Pacific has actually featured Grantsville on their focus sites for their customer base. And so that's put Grantsville on the map nationwide as a rail-served community. So we're really excited to hopefully see some companies come in that will utilize that asset, and hopefully it'll take some trucks off the road and alleviate some of the traffic there. So here is the project area map. We have the Broken Arrow zone right there in the top corner. And then the 20 Wells project zone, that's where the Lakeview Business Park is. And then we have the Savage Tooele rail line that I mentioned. It'll come right into this park and loop through, and also have a small transload facility eventually. But we're really excited to see that one get deployed. We have a lot of recruitment projects looking at Grantsville. As you may not be surprised, it's a very popular community for businesses to take a look at. And we're excited about some of the tools we deployed here. I mentioned that 12 million AIB loan for the Savage Tooele rail line. And then we are working with them on some financing, deploying some of our financing tools for their phase on the west side of their development. And I'll move forward to that really quickly. Sorry about the fancy transitions. So the project that we've been talking about, and you can see my cursor here. So that property is right here around the Romney property. And then here, the Romney property, the Romneys have given us this view of what they're looking to do. And I'm sorry, this map isn't great, but you see that red line is the boundaries of our project area. So we're kind of on the furthest west side of that development. And it does include some residential in the project area that they are looking at deploying.
I'm sorry, this is probably a bad question, but why is your project area, if the Romneys have this whole Lakeview Business Park, why do you just have this small section?
It's a great question, and it's because the Romneys have already utilized the RDA tool on that eastern side.
All right.
So there's an RDA there, and it's a
Right.
very similar tool. And so we're just not gonna overlap those two tools.
Makes sense, thank you.
And then this is just showing the Broken Arrow zone. They have a rail line that services their site there, as well as Highway 138. So a really great location for some heavy industrial. And so we're looking forward to seeing that one deployed. They have some, they're still working on site due diligence there, particularly getting some wetlands characterized and delineated, and we're working with them on that, but we're excited to help get some things deployed here as well. I'm going to stop there and see what questions you have.
So up in the track and Deseret Peak, everything flows down to where that road going east and west is, in on the track side of it. All of the sewer. And then they pump it uphill to Sheep Lane and then down to the line that goes through Lakeview Business Park. Okay. We got to find some way to eliminate that and get it so it goes over to this line and flows down where it's supposed to. That would be really helpful.
Now, you said you're a state, like a state agency or whatever, okay. So if you're a state agency and UDOT's a state agency, wouldn't there be maybe a little more cooperation with, if you're putting in all this infrastructure and this business parks in trying to be ahead of the game with a major road like SR 112 passing through there? Wouldn't that make sense that?
So we have actually been working really closely with UDOT, particularly on the Lakeview Business Park. And it's not just SR 112, but it's also the Mid-Valley Highway extension coming up
Right,
from
and the
Tooele.
Sheep Lane and
Exactly.
all those things.
And so
Yeah.
we've been working really closely with their planners. And one thing that we've done is they're in the middle of their planning cycle right now. They have a 4-year planning cycle where they basically set the priorities for the next, 10, 20 years. And every 4 years, they take a look at that plan. They reassess based off of the information that they have today, and then they reprioritize those projects. So we've given them all of this information from the Romneys on how much industrial is coming out here, as well as their new residential project. And, obviously this is just a piece of the growth that's happening, but this data is going to be really helpful as, UDOT assesses what their next projects are going to be and how they're going to prioritize those projects. We're really hopeful that that data is going to help them accelerate and put some of these projects that today are 5, 10 years down the road and bring them a little bit further up in the queue. So that's
Right.
that's
because-
about as much as we can do.
Right, but all this development is great, as far as commercial development and bringing taxes to our community, but we're the residents are going to be the ones paying the price as far as the massive amount of traffic on SR 112.
We'll say inconvenience. I mean,
It is.
It really is.
Yes.
So,
Inconvenienced by the massive amount of traffic. Obviously, there's going to be benefits, but it's going to be an inconvenience until we get caught up with so can these funding mechanisms that you're discussing be part of putting those roads in, or that is simply a UDOT project?
The short answer is yes. We can deploy these funds for these UDOT projects, but it may not change how UDOT has prioritized which projects they're going to start. Because it's not just about funding, but it's also about prioritizing, where the congestion is now. And it's frustrating. It's not a perfect system.
well aware.
Yeah.
Could be, I
But-
hate to interrupt you, we got another meeting. so
Yes.
sorry, just
Yes.
like-
Yes. Yes.
But in our agenda, it talks about presentation, you've done a great job presenting us, and a discussion of the proposed amendment to the inlet port. What is the amendment?
So we don't have a proposed amendment,
What would it be?
but if the idea is to include this new development into the project area, that would require an amendment to the project area. So any new parcels that you want added to the project area to utilize these tools, we would go through the amendment cycle. And we have an annual amendment cycle. But it's really at the behest of the city council. So as soon as the city council says, yes, we want to expand the project area, add more areas of the city into the project area, the city will pass a resolution. Once the city passes that resolution, then it kicks it over to us and we'll start that process of amending our existing project area, adding the new parcels, amending our budgets, amending our plan, and then taking that to our board for final approval.
So obviously, Mr. Green has stated why this is an advantage to him to be included in this, but why is it an advantage to us to expand this inland port area?
So I will say this is a tool in the hands of the city, first and foremost, and we will do whatever the city feels is best for the city. These tools are really, really helpful when what's good for the city aligns with a developer who's ready to move and ready to develop. and is ready to deploy these tools. So if, as you assess this project and it looks like, we have a need, there's significant infrastructure that needs to come to fruition here, and the city wants to participate in making sure that that infrastructure gets built right. This is a mechanism for you to come in and participate. And if you take a look at the project and say, you know what, we feel like maybe the public benefit, maybe the public good doesn't actually fit what we're looking for, then, Mr. Green can look at other mechanisms to deploy to make sure that his project is successful. So this is just an opportunity for the city to participate and deferring some of your revenues toward the development that you want to see. So we're going to follow the directive of the city in this instance, but I will say that these projects are always the most successful when you have a developer that has a plan, that has a vision, that has the financing to be able to get this project moving. And the city wants to see it done and see it done right.
Thanks. Any other questions? Sure.
How does this affect or benefit retail and residential?
Oh, this is a good question. So with retail and residential, obviously, when the city is participating with tax revenues, and in this case, it's new tax revenues, future tax revenues, to build some of this infrastructure, that means it's not on the onus of the end users to have to pay for those upgrades through their taxes. So this doesn't levy any new taxes on these end users in this park. It's just utilizing the normal taxes that they pay into the city year over year. And we just deploy those taxes towards that infrastructure liability. So it does allow for the potential of being able to cut down on the costs of those developments, right? Especially if you don't have to have them pay for the water, sewer, power upgrades that need to happen in order to make that work. So it's a great way to incentivize these types of users to come into this area if they're not on the hook to pay for all of those upgrades. Similarly, this developer, it is an incentive for them to come in since, those tax revenues are going to be put towards those upgrades that the developer would be on the hook to pay for. So it's just a way for the city to come in and participate in the build out of this development, utilizing those future revenues. Does that answer your question? Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back if you decide to move forward with it, whatever you decide. And then we'll also be back with our annual report that's coming out next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn the work meeting.
Motion, is there a second? Got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All in favor. Motion carries, sorry.